Boom. Wonderful. Welcome. Today I'm going to be breaking down a lead funnel that I put together for a local photographer that was looking to capture some more leads and get more booked calls for their prime wedding season here. If I zoom in here, we can take a look at the basic funnel. It consists of a very bare bones, simple funnel of Google PPC ads to a sales page that links to a VSL and order form that takes you to a calendar and then a booked call thank you page. So, in and of itself, this is nothing really all that special. But what really makes something so simple turn into something that's a little bit more built out is thinking about the contingencies of what you can do to get a prospect back after they leave the funnel and don't go all the way through. So if they go through the funnel here and you're not able to get them all the way through and book a call, what can you do to get them back where they were and to continue on through the funnel? So I'll break it down here. From here, we've got our opt-in. So if a customer goes through the sales page and then to the VSL and form and they give their contact information, they opt in. Once they do that, they are put into a day zero sequence where they receive a email that has a lot of positive labeling, congratulations, awesome for you for taking the next step. That is trying to push them to book a call on the calendar page. Then we will wait and we will see if they book the call. If they do, we add them to a qualifying sequence. If they don't, we add them to our first content sequence. So in this content sequence here, what we're doing is we're basically trying to bait them with a free asset that we put together, a free piece of value that they could make use of in order for them to book a call. So in this particular content sequence, we are pushing a 48-point wedding planning checklist. So for a new bride who just recently got engaged, who is looking to plan their wedding, this could be something that's very valuable to them because who are the type of people who are looking at wedding photographers? New brides who are looking to plan their wedding. And when do they start looking at wedding photographers? Usually it's one of the first things that they do. It's the wedding venue and the wedding photographer that you really want to get ironed out in the beginning before you go and you plan everything else like catering and such. So we're using this free checklist as bait to try to get them to go into the call me sequence where they'll push them to book a call. So we've got 3 emails that are testing out different hooks and different angles in order to try to get the prospect to bite and move along through the funnel. If they go all the way through and all 3 hooks and all 3 angles don't work, we will add them to content sequence 2 and remove them from content sequence 1. So we'll start promoting a new asset for them to try to book a call. If they do interact with this asset, it'll take them out of the content sequence 1 and it'll put them into a call me sequence where we try to get them to book a call. So on content sequence 2, we are promoting a 8-step fitting, what would you call it, booklet to help get the perfect suit for the groom and the groomsmen. So why would this be valuable to them? Well, for a picture perspective, you want everyone in the wedding party to look good. You don't want them to look sloppy. You don't want them to be in bad fitting suits. So that's something that they could find valuable. Same idea. We'll use 3 different hooks and 3 different angles to try to get them to bite. If they do, we add them to the call me sequence and we remove them from this content sequence. If they don't, we add them to the next content sequence 3. In content sequence 3, we have a venue hunting guide to try to get better discounts on venues and to get something unique that other brides haven't seen before. Same idea. If they do click through, we add them to the call me sequence. If not, we test out more hooks and more angles to try to get them to bite. If they don't, we add them to content sequence 4, which is basically just a bundle of all of these assets. So the checklist, the suit guide, and the venue guide, just to kind of give them a bit of a value bomb so you can entice them to book a call with you, right? If not, we add them to a re-engagement sequence. The re-engagement sequence is basically just like a content sequence where we also are advertising these assets, but we're being much more direct and calling on their pain points, calling why did you enter this funnel, right? To try to be a little bit more aggressive and direct in getting them to contact you. So if they go through all of those assets there, right? Content sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, and the re-engagement sequence, and they don't interact, we take them out of the re-engagement sequence and we add them to a newsletter. If we're going to email them, if it's 3 emails per sequence, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 times in the course of just over 2 weeks, we can kind of take them out of the pool of potential prospects because they likely are not going to purchase. But let's say they're going through content sequence 1 and then they do interact with it and they get added to the call me list or the call me sequence. What happens then? Then, once they're added to the sequence, we'll email them saying basically, please call me, please call me, please call me, pushing them to book a call. If they do, we remove them from the call me sequence, and if they don't, we move them through. If they receive all 3 emails and they don't book a call, we will check them for tags. Where did they leave the content sequence to get to the call me sequence? So let's say hypothetically they were going through content sequence 2, right? So we would check them for tags. If they had completed content sequence 1, great, we'd move them forward to content sequence 2. Let's say that is where they got onto the call me sequence. We see that they don't have the completed CS2 tag. We would drop them back into content sequence 2 and then continue on from there, right? Pushing them through, promoting that asset. And if they don't bite, promoting the next asset. Let's say they've gone through all of the content sequences and haven't interacted from there. Well, then we would just add them to the newsletter and we would take them off of the call me sequence. The idea here is that they're not going to be seeing any of the assets that we've promoted before. Everything is new and fresh, no matter where they drop off and jump back on. So if we zoom out here, we can take a look and see what happens if they do book a call. If they do book a call, we're going to ping the photographer and they are going to confirm the logistics with them. If they don't open that, we'll resend it. And then we have automated 24-hour reminder, 6-hour reminder, and a 1-hour reminder that is also supplemented with SMS. Just text, just to make sure that once they book their call, we can increase the likelihood of them actually showing up to that call. So the reason we ping the photographer here is because they're manually going to be confirming the logistics. So this is going to be a little bit higher touch. It's not going to be automated, so it's going to be a little bit more work for the photographer or the salesperson. The reason that we're doing this when we could automate this is because it's going to increase our conversions. And for a single photographer or a single salesperson who's trying to just stack their calendar to get as many calls as possible and make as many sales as possible, it's worth not sacrificing the conversions. If you were having, let's say, thousands of calls for an entire sales team, you could probably automate these things because you're probably more willing to sacrifice conversions for that kind of volume. Let's say they do show up to the call. We will then ping the photographer and then they will, I zoomed in there. We will then ping the photographer and they will go and have a personalized follow-up with information that they gathered during that call. And then ideally, they closed the sale on that call and they'll collect payment. If not, they'll set up the next call. In a perfect world, you could collect payment on the first call. Typically, that's not how it goes. It'll be a 2-call close. We also have contingencies here for if they don't show up to the call. If they don't show up to the call, just like the call me sequence, we're going to check them for tags. Where did they get to the call me sequence to book the call? Whether it was content sequence 1, 2, or 3. Check how far they had gotten through that process. And if they hadn't completed it all the way, we'll drop them wherever they dropped off so that they can continue through and then ideally book a new call where we can try to sell them again. If they don't show, they go through all the content sequences again and they don't book another call, we will add them to the newsletter and kind of give up on them as a prospect for now. We also have a few pages that we had to build out for this specific funnel here. The content sequence download pages where they would go to get the free assets, the booked thank you page, and the calendar and VSL. So before it was set up like this, it was even more bare bones. It was just a sales page and an email form. So there was no VSL. The email form wasn't even on a different page. It was just a pop up saying, "Hey, tell me about your wedding. When is it? Send me an email." And then we were hoping that they would kind of sell themselves from there. But then we built everything out with these new assets to try to ensure that we pick up on anyone who might have fallen through the cracks, right? If you're going to pay for a prospect through ads to get to the sales page and you're able to collect contact information from them, we're going to do everything in our power to try to maximize on that because we've already invested in that customer. We already have money in, and if we have their their contact information, we'll basically email them until they unsubscribe for us or buy from us. Because why would you let that fall through the cracks if you've already paid for it? Right? Just as a basic overview, what we're doing is after they opt in and we have their contact information, we're using free assets that we developed to try to get them to book a call, right? We've got multiple different assets that we promote. If they do book a call, then we manually will touch, we'll have more manual touch points, and then we will confirm logistics and such. And then if they no show, we'll drop them back into the content sequences from there, and we will try to get them to book another call. So that's a pretty basic rundown for what we've got going on here in terms of the lead funnel or call funnel that we have put together for our photographer here. So that is everything. Thank you for tuning in. Wonderful. Lord, no.